What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the driveway, where this week we're packing up the family and we're going places, because this time I've got the 2018 Toyota Highlander. So let's get to it, and as always, our walkthrough today begins with a lesson under the skin. Now, the Highlander that we've had this week is the SE all-wheel drive, and ever since it was refreshed in 2017, the Highlander has received quite a significant number of upgrades, the majority of which happen here in the engine bay. Now, for models equipped with the bigger of the two engine choices, you now are looking at a modern 3.5 liter V6, the same size as before, but now with Toyota's D4S direct and port fuel injection system, along with a variable valve timing intelligent wider intake and a variable valve timing intelligent exhaust, and a new auto start stop system. Along with things such as double overhead cams and 24 valves, this new V6 cranks out 295 horsepower and 263 pound-feet of torque. It's connected specifically to an in-house developed 8-speed electronically controlled automatic transmission with manual shift mode, and is still available in both front wheel and all-wheel drive. Now, as far as fuel economy is concerned, you're looking at 21 in the city and 27 on the highway for V6 models in front-wheel drive. However, when equipped with all-wheel drive, expect that to drop to 20 in the city and 26 on the highway. Now, being the fact that the SE is pretty high up there on the Highlander's trim level ladder for 2018, things like keyless access with push-button start are standard equipment. Now, as far as the fob itself, it's a nice pocket-sized Toyota-style fob with all of your basic functions like lock and unlock. My particular tester does have a power-assisted tailgate, along with things such as your panic function and the typical releasable key blade, which comes out of the lower left-hand corner of the fob, and that can be used to do things like lock and unlock the glove box and or lock and unlock the doors should the car lose battery power. Now, being the fact it's keyless, it's just like all the others, just have the key fob anywhere within the vehicle, then put your foot on the brake pedal, hit the button on the lower part of the dashboard, and now, when viewed from the exterior, it's hard to believe that this Highlander's body style, in one form or another, has now been with us for close to half a decade's worth of model years already. However, in that same regard, it's definitely not the ugliest SUV or crossover by any means, but at the same time, with the modern vehicles and designs that Toyota has been launching over the past couple of years, I feel that the Highlander is definitely in need of a pretty significant upgrade, despite the fact that the company gave this vehicle a nice mid-cycle refresh only a year or so ago already. Now, the SE trim is a little bit of a grab bag in a couple of ways, the first of which is that it bridges the gap between the more basic trims like the LE and LE Plus and more luxurious trims like the Limited and Limited Platinum. And on that same regard, it offers a little bit more of a sporty flavor to those who want something a little bit extra from their 3-row crossover. Now, when talking about the features, this is also an area where I feel it's a little bit of a grab bag. You have some positives, but you also have some negatives. And just looking at it here from the front, you can definitely see what I mean. We have these beautiful, bright, automatic LED daytime running lights here, accenting these standard halogen projector headlights. If you want something like LEDs or HIDs, unfortunately, you do have to go further up the trim level ladder, thus increasing the price. You do also have things, though, like the intelligent high beam assist and the dynamic radar cruise control, as noted in the standard Toyota Safety Sense Plus package in here on my tester. Now, we also do have things such as this fully blacked out grille, which I really love. I love the split level design, the metallic black finish to the upper and lower parts, and the fact it is completely borderless. No chrome strips or anything like that here, just a beautiful aesthetic design running all the way down the front. A couple of other things to note, we do also have standard fog lights on my tester here, as well as these nice little air pockets integrated into the sides of the front fascia, which ultimately allow better coefficient of drag and also a nice little bit of cooling to the large four-wheel disc braking system underneath. Now, of course, with the SE being the sportiest trim level of the entire Highlander family, of course the company wanted a little bit more of a sporty flavor when it comes to what you're rolling on. And down here you're looking at the SE's standard set of 19-inch machine-faced and painted aluminum alloy wheels. Now, these aren't necessarily wrapped in the biggest tires ever. These are 245/55 series Toyo tires, but they still do provide a very, very comfortable ride nonetheless. Now, aiding in that comfortable ride, we do have a McPherson independent suspension up here in the front with a double wishbone style independent suspension in the rear. Now, also underneath, we do also have the four-wheel disc braking system, which definitely can bring this car to a halt in a sure hurry. Now, as we continue on down the side, there's really nothing too extremely special to differentiate this Highlander SE from anything like any of its brethren. You do have things such as the large body-colored side view mirrors with the integrated LED turn signals. That's a standard feature on most of the upper-end trims. But you also do have things such as a heating element in each of the mirrors, as well as a standard blind spot monitoring system with rear cross-traffic alert here on my SE tester. Now, what's funny about that is that this is an over $40,000 SUV from Toyota, and I've tested Lexus vehicles recently which actually had that as an option rather than a standard feature, which were considerably more expensive than this. So it's actually nice to see some more standard safety features rather than those actually being optional. Now, continuing on down the sides, I did mention it earlier, but we do have the standard Toyota intelligent key access system. We do have the locking feature. You just touch the rib portion over any one of the front door handles and that locks it. You just simply grab the handle with the key fob on you and that automatically unlocks the vehicle. And one final little touch that I found rather nice are these gloss black painted roof roof rails. Normally these are bright silver or perhaps polished chrome, but it's nice and cool to see these polished and painted black roof rails instead. It adds a nice little extra sporty touch up here on the roof of the Highlander SE. Now, as we finally move towards the rear end of the Highlander, again the design is really starting to show its age. Everything from the shape and design of the taillights all the way to the entire curvaceousness of the rear facade, all is reminiscent of the design that first debuted just about 4 years ago or so. Now, again, there have been a few slight touches. We do have full LED taillights here on this SE trim of mine. You also do have the signature SE badging down below, and again, my particular tester is all-wheel drive as well, as I mentioned before. And also, as I mentioned, there is a lacking of any kind of rear parking assist sensors here on the back. Now, that being said, you do have the backup camera here just underneath the Toyota logo, but my favorite thing about this entire rear end is a feature that you really just don't see on many SUVs or crossovers anymore, and that is the fact that it has the split rear tailgate, so you can actually raise just the rear glass rather than the entire power-assisted tailgate. Now, all you do is you just come up to the vehicle, you hit this little button here, and as you can see, now you suddenly just have the rear glass open. I really, really love those features. As a matter of fact, this feature dates back to my childhood when my family had a '93 Ford Explorer with the same feature. Just kind of a funny little note. But at the same time, like I said, my particular tester does have the power-assisted tailgate, so all you gotta do, pull the latch, and as you can see, the tailgate automatically rises. So sitting down here in the driver's seat of this 2018 Highlander, the first thing that really jumps out at me is the fact that while the exterior may not exactly portray the amount of room and space that you actually have inside the Highlander's cabin, certain elements in here do still feel like they could use a bit of an update. I mean, certain elements like the steering wheel here and certain things like the infotainment system and more really do feel a little bit out of date, especially when compared to a lot of the other things that Toyota has been doing to their vehicles here for the 2018 and now 2019 model years. But as far as features go, the SE model that I have here does actually have quite a lot, and at a price tag starting over $40,000, there better be quite a bit of features here to justify that sort of price tag. Now, starting here directly in front of the driver, I do have a leather-trimmed 3-spoke multi-function steering wheel with all the controls you'd expect. You do have the aero pad and other functions here for your liquid crystal display up there in the gauge cluster, as well as a couple of other features here, such as as the lane departure warning with active steering assist, as well as the distance sensor for the standard dynamic radar cruise control that's a part of that standard Toyota Safety Sense system that I mentioned earlier. The other cruise control functions for which are down here on the little typical Toyota stock here and about the 4 o'clock position on the wheel itself. Over here to the left, you do have other standard things such as the hands-free Bluetooth and hands-free radio controls along with voice recognition. And if you move even further over from the steering wheel, we do have a couple of other little buttons over here to the side. We do have the button for the power tailgate. We have the button that controls the auto start stop, and we also have a button here for the auto high beam assist that I also mentioned when we were around front. As far as everything else, you do have pretty standard stuff, including dual automatic front windows, the rest of your power windows, your power door locks, the keyless access as I showed you earlier, window locks, and also power mirrors to complete the set. Now moving over here to the center console and onto the subjects of infotainment and entertainment like always, this is where I can really see how Toyota is justifying that over $40,000 price tag for vehicles like my SE Tester. For starters, we have a large 8-inch color multi-information display here in the middle, and one of the other things that I found really cool is when you go to select something with like these outside tabs here, everything is touch responsive. It's not an actual physical button, which I can see as a little bit of a hindrance, maybe something a little bit easier to break, but at the same time you have things such as your applications. Like I said, you can go to do things like your navigation system here. You do have to deal with fingerprints, being that this is a touchscreen system, but that's not so much of a hindrance compared to other ones with a much more smooth, more glass-like screen surface here. But as far as the navigation system, it's a pretty basic system. The graphics are still very good, very easy to read, and it is still very, very responsive and easy to use. Going back to the app suite, it's pretty standard stuff. You have your text messages that you can go to, your phone connectivity, same with your Bluetooth audio, your economy indicator, you've got active traffic updates and so on, and you can even do things such as weather updates and also things like vehicle maintenance, so you can talk about engine oil and perhaps even schedule stuff, if I'm correct, going through all of this here, and also set things like schedule reminders as you go through it. Now, in terms of the audio system, my particular tester does have the standard Toyota audio system. I believe it's a 6-speaker stereo system, even with this beautiful Entune color display up here in the dash. The stereo system is a little bit on the basic side, but it does have a music clarification system to go along with it, so it does provide a pretty nice sound altogether. Now, as you move down the large center console here, the next thing you run into is at least the front half of the tri-zone climate control systems in here. You do have the physical dual mode setup here for the driver and passenger, as well as a separate little entity with its own little screen and controls back here at the back of the center console, and we'll touch on that here more in just a bit. But as far as the physical front half, it's just like a lot of other dual zone systems you'll see on the market. You do have things such as front and rear defrost with your heated exterior mirrors on the far left, as well as the driver temperature control and things like automatic AC, as well as the ability to turn the system off. Not to mention things such as air conditioning recycling, your fan speed control, the beautiful blue color-like display up here on the top portion, as well as things such as your climate zone controls, and even the ability to control the rear temperature with this front system. You can just push the rear function and that automatically turns on the separate entity here, which allows you to control the temperature by yourself without anybody in the back seat having to do anything. And then finally finishing it all off over here on the right, you do have things such as introducing the air conditioning itself, as well as the synchronized function to go along with it. As you can hear the rear air conditioning turning on back there. The sync function allows the temperatures to control all three at the same time, so you can actually, as you turn the temperature knob, you can see all of them will actually change. You turn that sync function off, and now all of a sudden I can control the temperatures independent of each other. So still pretty much just like a lot of other dual and tri-zone systems out there, but nevertheless, I do love how compact all these controls are. It's not a million different buttons. It's all very straightforward, very easy to use. And unlike a lot of other cars, there's actually not a climate screen that you can use up here in the 8-inch touchscreen display. It's all just a physical bank of buttons down here, making things much easier to use in the long run. So after the climate controls, the next thing you come to in the center console console at least, is this huge storage area that extends all the way from the far edge of the center console all the way to the edge of the passenger door. Now, it does have a couple little nifty things, and that's the first time I've said that word in a long time. The first of which is the fact it has this little area that you can actually take your phone cord and from the USB down there beneath all of this, and you can actually bring it up through this little storage area and rest your phone in this area without having it dangling in the cup holders or getting in the way of everything. And I think that is just so cool. I've not seen a lot of vehicles that actually have this kind of little feature. So just a nice nifty little gadget. And then you also have a little separator over here for your passengers so they can store their phones or whatever in this portion of the storage area. And it doesn't actually have quite a lot of room. My hand, in fact, can almost go all the way in there, entirely up to my wrist. That's how much storage you have just in this little cubby here. But as you move on from that, you get down to beneath the center console here, at least the storage, and you get to the front two of the 5 USB inputs that are here inside this interior. Now, there are 2 at the base of the rear of the center console for your rear occupants. We'll see those more here in a minute. And the third one, I'm not exactly sure where it is. I'm still actually on the hunt for that. But Toyota says there's 5, so that's what I'm going to go with. You do also have the auxiliary input down here beneath your USB chargers, and you also have a couple of other things like a little cigarette lighter over there on the far right. Now, you do have a few other buttons down here, and I'm sorry I'm so far away in case you can't read them, but you do have things such as your traction control. You have a snow mode, being that this one is all-wheel drive. You also have things such as your hill descent control, and even a central differential locker when tackling some of the tougher situations out there on the open country. Now, finally getting down to the lower part of the center console itself, the first thing that meets your eyes is this huge shifter mechanism controlling the 8-speed electronically controlled automatic transmission. Now, for starters, I love the grip with this large leather-wrapped shifter knob here. It's very gun trigger-like. You have a great place to rest at least your front fingers. I love the silver backing on it, and every motion of the gear selector as you go down through the gears is very mechanical and almost authoritative. It slides right into every gear with a nice little authoritative click. Now, in reverse, you do have a backup camera. I love that it's not glitchy or anything like that, but what's a little bit annoying is the fact that this particular tester of mine does not have any kind of rear parking assist sensors. Now, it's a beautiful camera, don't get me wrong, but it would be nice to kind of have a little bit of something extra in case somebody may not be paying attention to their backup camera and more paying attention to their surroundings. Now, in any gear other than park, as soon as you put it in park, you'll hear that the doors automatically unlock. When you put it in any gear other than park, you hear they automatically lock. So you have the automatic safety locks, just a nice little additional safety feature being that this is more of a family-oriented vehicle. You do have a couple of large sizable cup holders down here in the middle, and one other nifty little gimmick, aside from this little charging cable holder up here in the storage area, is the cup holder divider, which can actually make one of the cup holders slightly smaller than the other. Now, it just locks in place like any other one, and with larger drinks, unfortunately, I've found that these little flaps here in the middle will sometimes make your drink rest at a little bit of an unstable position. You kind of have to push your drink down in to get these little things to actually lock in place. But other than that, it's a pretty handy little feature, and you can just simply take it out, as I said before, to fit your big gulp from your local takeout station here in these drink holders. You do also have multi-stage heated seats for both the front occupants, but they're controlled by these little scroll wheels instead of buttons. So instead of multiple stages, it allows you to, I guess, tune your heated seat just to your liking rather than having 3 direct stages. Now, as far as everything else, the center console is a bit interesting here, being the fact that it feels like it's leather wrapped and it does have some give to it, but it also feels kind of rubbery. But getting access to the center console is also a little weird because you have to push down on this little trigger here in order to slide these doors open. Now, you may notice, yes, there is a remote control in there, and we'll get to what that is for here in just a bit, but you also do have things such as a nice little storage tray. There's a 120 watt outlet way down here at the base of the center console here. There's no USB or anything, and this tray is also kind of hard to move. It's a little bit stuck in place, but overall plenty of storage area here in the center console. Just a little bit of an interesting way in which you would normally get it open. So last but not least, before we move on, we get to the roof section where we find a power auto dimming rear view mirror. You can actually turn off the auto dimming function via this little green button here on the bottom, and the mirror itself is actually almost frameless. The frame on this thing is very, very thin, and therefore allows maximum visibility there out of the back. The main control panel, however, is a little bit further back. You have things such as your standard map and reading lights, your door lights, and so on. You have a HomeLink 3-mode garage door opening system here in the middle, and then of course you have other little oddities like a rear view mirror, which you can actually get to hang in place here, and that gives you a better view of your rear occupants compared to just using the standard rear view mirror back here. Now, of course, the main function and a standard feature here on my SE Tester is of course a power tilting and sliding sunroof. There are some crossovers, believe it or not, that still offer one of these only as an option, not as standard equipment, even on a $40,000+ SUV like this, and some of them even go the extra mile and offer a panoramic roof, which a lot of times I've seen has been more prone to breaking than something just standard like this. Now you can open and close it just at the touch of a button, so just open it normally, like so. Or you can actually power tilt it using the button over here on the far right. Now, of course, you can't talk about this roomy interior, especially being up front, without taking a seat in the back here. Now, for starters, the Highlander does come in at least a couple of different seating configurations. My particular one with the optional rear seat entertainment, which we'll touch on here in just a bit, is the 7-passenger configuration with this removable center console here. You just pull up on the latch and it automatically folds away. But as you can see, bringing it out, you do have things such as a little tray for maybe your snacks, and also 2 applicable drink holders here in the middle as well. But it also acts as a nice little aisle to get into the 3rd row seats when those are actually up and in place. Now, I did also mention that we do have the rear seat controls for the tri-zone climate control system, and they're fairly pretty easy to understand. You do have the off button, your fan speed here on the left, your climate zone control in the middle, the automatic function for at least the rear part, as well as your temperature control over here on the right, all with a nice little LED screen here in the middle. Now, as far as room, I'm 6'1", and I feel like I'm sitting in a limousine. It is enormous back here. There is a lot of room, especially for even taller folks like myself. I would imagine that even somebody closer to 7 foot tall could actually fit in the back seat of this car without too much difficulty. There's no plastic in the backs of the front seats, so that's also a nice little plus. And of course, you do have dual map pockets here, one in the backs of each of the front seats. As a nice little additional option, my particular tester does also have the applicable rear sunshades that just go right up, and they're a little finicky, as you can see, kind of doing it one-handed, but once they lock in place, they have the little tabs here on either side, and to release them, all you have to do is just lift up and drop them straight back here into the door panel. And last but not least, of course, as far as the rear seat is concerned, we have the Blu-ray DVD entertainment system that, as far as the window sticker is concerned, is the only real major option here on my particular test vehicle today. Now, your DVDs do go up here in the top, but the additional bonus is, let's say you have a movie on an SD flash card, you can actually insert that into the specific little hole up here just underneath the DVD player itself. Now, as far as the screen, it doesn't really get in the way. It's kind of small, actually, in fact, compared to some of the other entertainment systems I've seen, especially ones with maybe a dual panel screen that's a little bit wider. But overall, it does the job. If you want to play your DVDs in the back and have some entertainment, like I said, it does the job just fine. Now, seeing that the Highlander is classified technically as a mid-size SUV, things like cargo space are definitely not a problem, even in smaller configurations like I have here with the 3rd row of seats up. Now, this has always been a problem for 3-row SUVs, is not having a whole lot of room for your stuff here behind the 3rd row of seats, and the numbers do necessarily reflect that when it comes down to it. You're looking at 13.8 cubic feet of space to start behind the 3rd row of seats, but fold those 60-40 split fold seats down, that suddenly extends to 42.3 cubic feet of space, and go even further than that, and now you're looking at a whopping 83.7 cubic feet of space to store everything from a full-size couch to your stuff for school and more. Now, again, with this Highlander being considered a mid-size SUV and primarily being used by families and large parties, of course, safety is definitely one thing that is on a lot of people's minds. And of course, the Highlander, just like a lot of other Toyota vehicles for 2018, 18 and 19 certainly does deliver. Not only with a wide array of airbags with things like the front impact airbags, the driver's knee airbag, the side curtain and side impact airbags, but also, as we've been covering throughout this entire review, the standard Toyota safety sense system in place here on most Toyota vehicles, including my SE Highlander tester. Now, we do have a couple of other things that we've not necessarily covered, but in case anybody wasn't listening, we do have things such as the dynamic radar cruise control, the pre-collision alert, the lane departure warning with active steering assist, and also other things such as the intelligent high beam assist and blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. So it's fair to say that the Highlander definitely has you covered as far as peace of mind is concerned, should you be wanting to put anybody in here with safety as your top priority. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the 2018 Toyota Highlander SE all-wheel drive has now unfortunately drawn to a close. I do hope everybody's enjoyed this review as much as I've had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do hit that thumbs up button, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But in the end, a huge thanks goes out to the wonderful folks at Toyota for again providing us with another wonderful vehicle for an entire week of fun-filled testing. But in the end, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.